Welcome everybody to BNI Talks. My name is Steve Tenuzo, your host for the minute. Before I hand off to Jenny, we are talking about nonprofits and business today. I know a lot of you have nonprofits in your chapter, but we want to get more of them in there. And we certainly want to explain why, and that's the purpose of today's webinar. So without further ado, let me turn it over to your host for the next 45 minutes or so. About 45 today, you think? Maybe an hour? We've got the full hour booked.
Yeah.
Jenny, take it away.
Thank you, Steve. Always a pleasure to do business with you and to do media with you. Thank you so much for coming, everybody. This was a well-registered webinar, so we hope that it will also be well attended. We know not everybody can get in here right at the top of the hour, whatever hour that may be for you. Specifically, if you're in Hawaii, thank you for joining us at 6 a.m. We are very, very happy that you got up early to pursue #lifelong learning. Today we have a great panel with us. You can see them here and you're going to meet them in just a moment. But I am so excited for not only the present success that we are having with nonprofits in BNI, but also for the great potential for future success that we can have, not just to help our communities and our nonprofits in those communities, but also to help our businesses. So this is going to be good for everybody. In fact, it might be magical, which is what you're going to notice in our theme from time to time here in our slides. So I wanted to get started and have you meet some of the amazing people who are on this call with us. And so let's start with brief introductions of everybody. We're going to come back to them in a minute, but you want to just keep in mind as you're listening to them, what they are, where they are, and what they're doing, because some are small regional organizations, some are national. Shirley's with BNI. So we'll start with JD. We'll go across the screen. Just tell us a little bit about who you are, what your nonprofit is, and how long you have been in your BNI chapter in this role.
Great. Well, I'm thrilled to be here with such great guests and great people. I'm excited to see all of the nonprofits and others that are bouncing up on the chat. There's so many of you I want to talk to. I'm Dr. JD Winnikin. I am the Director of Program Excellence for an organization called Airway Science for Kids. I'm in the Seattle area, but it is based in Portland, Oregon, and it has been around for about 30 years, but it has been in the middle of a rebuild over the last 2.5 through COVID. And I've been in my chapter, the Plateau Partners chapter in the east side of Seattle, in this role for almost 2 years. And so I hold the nonprofit seat in that chapter. But I essentially oversee all of our program development and our professional development. My job is to stay 2 or 3 steps ahead of the needs of our staff and of our stakeholder groups. So my job is to sort of look above the parapet, as it were. Nice to be here.
Thanks, JD. Shannon?
Good morning, or at least morning for some of us. My name is Shannon, and I have been with BNI for 2 years now. We had our 1-year membership as a nonprofit, and then we signed up for another additional 2 years in the Illinois chapter. I am the site director for Gigi's Playhouse in Deerfield, Illinois, which is just one of many locations. We are a nonprofit network of achievement centers that provide free therapeutic, educational, and life skills programs for individuals with Down syndrome. From a prenatal diagnosis all the way through career skills for adults, we support families every step of the way. We now have 55 locations across the United States, 1 in Mexico, and we reach 88 countries through our online platform of Gigi's at Home for people who can't get to a playhouse. So we're rapidly growing and very excited about BNI and the opportunities here.
So great. Thank you, Shannon. I love it. Bethany.
Hi there. So happy to be here. So I am Bethany Lynch, and I'm with the American Cancer Society, where we are improving the lives of cancer patients and their families every day. And we've been around for over 100 years and had a role in every major cancer breakthrough since we've started. So I'm specifically here in Sarasota, Florida, and I work with the Making Strides Against Breast Cancer movement. And I have been in my chapter, Professional Biz Connections, for just over a year and a half, and but with the American Cancer Society for 5 years. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, we're so glad. We are literally as far apart in the country as they could be, between Washington and Florida and some states in between. So I'm very excited about that. And Shirley Town.
Hey there, I'm Shirley Town. I'm the executive director here in BNI South Carolina Midlands. We have a passion for charities within our region. Givers gain. Why wouldn't we have charities? I heard a podcast by Ivan Meisner didn't even know charities could be in BNI 3 years ago. We had 0. Today we have 16 charities, to include some that you might know: Make-A-Wish, American Cancer Society, Leukemia and Lymphoma, and then a lot of local charities. So super proud. We even, Jenny's going to be so surprised by this, we even have an animal charity, fostering dogs, and that is a really fun charity to have in BNI, because there is nothing better than a BNI referral of adopting a dog. So super fun charities, and over the years we've really learned how we can bless each other, and so I'm proud to be on this panel.
Thank you so much. Dogs. Do you like dogs? I did not know this about you, sure.
We have 6 rescued Siberian Huskies, so Jenny is really pulling my leg over here. But yes, we might be known for that. We like dogs.
I love it. All right. Well, thank you all for being here. Some of you morning, some of you afternoon. This is one of my favorite things about BNI, is that we can gather, even not only just from around the country, but from around the world, and share the best ideas and best practices so that all of our businesses and our communities can be better. So today, here are some of the things that we're going to be talking about. As we're moving forward, please put any questions you have in the Q&A. We will have a time set aside at the end for that. And if you have things that you'd like to contribute, or if you want to make some connections, please feel free to do that in the chat. We are going to talk to our panelists a little bit about the background of their organization, so you can see the variety of organizations that are in our chapters. We're going to talk about both what nonprofits need from you as businesses, if that's who you are, and what the nonprofits can give to businesses, because this is a magical combination. And then we want to talk about some stories, some events, some ways that everybody has benefited from that. And then specifically, we would love to know how you have, or how you plan to invite some nonprofits into your chapters. You could probably have more than one nonprofit, because if they're not competing for the same source and the same resources, they could partner with one another. So we don't want anyone to feel limited. So before we start, I just wanted to take a few minutes, and along the way, panelists, feel free to jump in, or people put into the chat anything that you'd like to add to this. I want us to see that having this partnership between nonprofits and businesses is a win for everyone. And we're just starting to kind of scratch the surface of this in the last few years. And COVID has changed everything, but not everything is worse because of it. Sometimes we're finding new connections, new strategies to help people in our communities and beyond. So when we have nonprofits and businesses working together in communities or in chapters, BNI chapters, it is good for the business credibility. People want to work with socially responsible businesses. In fact, there are some really great surveys, and I can put some of the links up in the chat here. But one of the surveys said that 66% of consumers are willing to pay more to a company that reflects values of serving communities and working with nonprofits. So it is very good for your individual business, if that's who you are in a BNI chapter, to help and be seen as helping and partnering with nonprofits, because your potential clients want to see that. This is going to potentially lead to an increase of sales, because word of mouth will spread faster when values are involved. BNI is not the only organization that works with core values. All of us have core values, whether we articulate them or not. And when you align yourself with the core values, or any kinds of values of your clients, potentially, you are going to see an increase in sales. We also see, especially in younger employees in different places, they want to be involved in a company that's involved in nonprofits, that has a cause, that makes an impact to make the world a different place. So if one of your goals is to increase recruiting and help with different things like employee satisfaction, partnering with a nonprofit is a potential way to do that. And because some of our nonprofits have great brand recognition, affiliating yourself with one of those in support is going to be good for your brand recognition as well. If your logo is somewhere as a sponsor or somehow affiliated with a nonprofit, this is going to be great for recognition for your company. So what's in it for the nonprofits? Well, I think we can come up with some obvious ones when they have events. They like to have sponsors, and businesses bring money and recognition. And perhaps if you, as a former MC and auctioneer for the nonprofit world, I remember what it meant to have a big name hospital as a sponsor. It's good for the hospital. It's good credibility for the organization as well. Of course, nonprofits always need volunteers. We know that nonprofits are very, very responsible with their donor dollars, and they want to save those to help the people they serve. So when we have volunteers, we can get in there. That is a win for the nonprofits. They get manpower, they get expertise, and they get resources. Of course, business owners and professionals are going to bring donations, and that's going to help the community that these nonprofits serve. And the nonprofits can get more exposure and reach for their causes because they're affiliated with a business that will help them do that. So nonprofits partnering with business really can benefit everyone. And we want to help facilitate that as effectively as possible. So that's just some of the magic. There's more, I'm sure. And if people are putting stuff in the chat, then feel free to let me know what other magic there is. A magician doesn't reveal her secrets, but I would like to have you share some of your secrets.
Hey, Jenny, how about a little poll before we jump into this to find out if
great idea
has a nonprofit in their chapter. All right, let's see what we've got. For those of you driving around, your answers are to the question, is there a nonprofit seat filled in your chapter? Yes, yes, we have more than one nonprofit, or not yet, exclamation point. There we go. Now, I know that this might be a little bit skewed because the topic, it has brought out a ton of nonprofits into the chat, which I'm really excited to see today. So please keep that activity going and let us know what you represent. All right, let's wrap up this poll and share the results. More than half on the call today are represented by a nonprofit. That's fantastic. Jenny, you are muted, but I'm curious to see if this surprises anyone. It certainly surprises me. I was hoping for like 30%, so this is good news.
Yeah, and I think you're right, because this is the topic, it drew a lot of chapters that already have that and they want it to be successful in their chapters.
Mm-hmm.
Good for you guys. Let's find out how we can make it work in our chapters by talking to the people we invited here. How about that? Yes. Thumbs up. All right. So what I'd like to do is go across the panel, starting with you, JD, because you're on the left. I'm a lefty, so I always want to start on the left, and we, kind of go left to right. And if you could tell us a little bit about the first round, I'd like to know how you are, how on a weekly basis, when you're giving your weekly presentation, how are you presenting the cause and the needs of your organization so that your chapter can help you as if you are another business in there? What kind of things are you saying in your weekly and feature presentations to get help?
Sure. This is a strategic thing that I work on with our staff before I do meetings. In particular, our executive director, Julia Cannell, who, by the way, is on this call, if any of you would like to reach out to her. But what we focus on is really relationship building. Our chapter, or our organization, is based in Portland, but we're in the process of expanding further into the Pacific Northwest. And so we need relationships. One reason why I'm anchored in Seattle is because a number of aerospace industries, which are our primary targets for partners, are up in Seattle. And so what I'm looking for every week is usually some sort of relationship. We have benefited greatly from the internal referrals within the chapter. That is where we have found a lot of assistance in everything from our fundraising to, well, a lot of things are escaping me, leadership coaching for our staff, emotional intelligence training for our staff. But I'm usually asking for relationships for some way, somehow, and something that we need. Sometimes that's for the expansion effort. Other times it's for needs that have come up throughout the course of the week for what we need internally. We like to joke that we're flying this airplane while we're building it. We're growing fast, and so sometimes things jump up that we don't anticipate. And one of the great things about being in the BNI chapter that I'm in is I have a place to start. to go to find solutions and ask for those relationships. And so that's primarily what we're looking for first and foremost. And really the focus is on helping us build ourselves as a better business alongside getting the relationships we need as a nonprofit, because that's a core tenet of our philosophy is we want to operate successfully as a business with those principles in mind.
And did you mention, and I forgot, or maybe you haven't, what is your specific target audience for Airway Signs for Kids?
Thank you. Yeah, I think I neglected that. We offer life and career pathway opportunities for underserved or historically excluded youth in the aerospace industry. And so aerospace is just an expensive career field to get into. And a lot of people who do not have access to the educational resources, the financial resources, the community resources, don't ever really see it as an option to go into. And yet there are over 900 different career opportunities in aerospace, and many of them don't require a 4-year college degree. And so we facilitate not just connecting people with possibilities in the industry, but with all the community resources that they might need. Because of course, a kid might dream of being an astronaut, but if they're worried about where their next meal is going to come from, or the emotional health of their family, they're not really going to be able to invest in it. And so we take a holistic approach over time, working with kids from as young as 5th grade all the way up to 21 to get them into the field as much as they need our help. And so our target audience is those communities, but we really need the support of relationships in the corporate, educational, government realm to really facilitate that, not just for funding, but for opportunities for kids, internships, flight schools, engineering schools, and the like.
Yeah, and I think we've talked about this in just with our businesses. Think about what your business goal is, and then who do you need to meet so that you can achieve that business goal. And I think the same is probably very true for all of you who are representing nonprofits. Shannon, how are you working that out in Northern Illinois?
Sure. I think when we initially started with BNI, our goal was truly to get our name out there. We're not always a household name like some of the other amazing panelists that we're with. We're not an organization that's readily known to most people. And I think one of our challenges is that although the disability community is the largest minority in our country, it's not always the most that's accessed or utilized or that people care about. It doesn't always get the platform that it deserves. And so I think this was an opportunity for us to get people to care about the disability community, about people who have special needs, and about ways that they can support this community in a unique way. So our initial construction with BNI was just to get the name out there and to get people to care. And then really quickly we developed those relationships and people started to care and then asked how they could help. And one of the best advice that I got from Merle, who I believe is on this call, is to adapt your presentation each week, because sometimes something that you say can resonate in a different way than the first time you say it, if you say it in a different way. And the other recommendation that she gave is to sometimes come up with a secondary connection that you can make that will get you to where you need to go. So we are a event-heavy organization. Most of our funding does come from running events. And the obvious way that you can support that is through sponsorship and volunteering and donations. But we're trying to balance out the way that we structure our financial organization. And so one of the things that we've been working on is the grant process. And many grants you can't apply for unless you are invited to, or you have a connection to somebody on the foundation panel, or you have access to somebody that works for that company. So one of the things that we ask for often is a connection to a financial advisor or somebody who is on the philanthropy seat of a company or an organization, or if you know how your organization runs their grant process. Many bigger organizations, Allstate being one of them, has a massive grant process, but you can only get in the door if somebody pushes your name up there or makes a recommendation or is a connection at that business. So we've been looking for those connections and asking for those in most of our chapter meetings now, as opposed to events, which we can also promote, but are kind of a little bit more obvious as a way you can support the nonprofit. So we try and adapt our presentations depending on what we need. Sometimes it's heavily volunteers, sometimes it's heavy volunteer support. But now we're trying to get more into those connections with grants, financial advisors, and organizations that have grant processes.
I love the specificity of that. It's something we talk about in BNI all the time, right? Specific is terrific. And to say we need these grants with this insurance company, so help us get the connections. It's gold. I love it. All right. So what's going on in Florida? How are you helping the American Cancer Society, Bethany?
Well, I love listening to everybody's the way we're working, because we're not reinventing the wheel, right? We're using good practices, and it's nice to hear that we're doing the same things. But one of the things that I'll add to what you all are saying is I try to focus my presentations on what's in it for them. Like I want to make sure they understand the mission and that we are improving the lives of cancer patients and how we do it. Because we have, a lot of people know about research with the American Cancer Society, but they don't always know the other things that we do. So they don't know this patient support. They don't know about how we're educating and making the guidelines, making sure people are getting out there and getting their screenings, that we play that role. Or they don't know the role we're playing in advocacy. So really making sure they know what we're doing, but then also what's in it for them if they sponsor us, what's in it for them if they volunteer and they participate. You mentioned that some of the reasons for being involved with a nonprofit are linking to an organization, right? So 48% of customers surveyed say they are more likely to purchase your product or use your service when you're affiliated with the American Cancer Society. That's huge. So while I like to think that everybody is philanthropic and has this really wonderful heart and they want to do all things altruistically, you've got to make sure they understand what is in it for their business as well. So getting that information of how is that going to benefit them, and then also being very specific in the asking. This week I have this going on because we are also very event related fundraising, but getting those volunteers, getting the donors to come in, whether it's a big sponsor or just the little which people think are insignificant, but those weekly donations that could come in as a referral. Those are all important things.
Yeah, I'm sure if it's on a regular basis, that helps with budgeting. So you know what projects to plan for.
For sure,
Yeah.
For sure. I mean, we have to, I know what I have to earn for the year, right? And what I have to raise for the year. And so I explain that to my group. They know where my goals are. And, I bring in different volunteers in different ways. I have some Real Men Wear Pink ambassadors. I have some committee members and team leaders and sponsors. So it's all different ways in which people can support us. And it's been really great. It's grown tremendously in the last 16 months that I've been a part of it.
Good. And we hope that happens for all of our nonprofits in their chapters. That's why we're doing this. In fact, right. Shirley, you have a little bit different perspective because you are seeing it in all of the chapters instead of living it week to week in one chapter. So what kinds of patterns are you seeing ways businesses are helping nonprofits?
Well, we're super excited to have 21 nonprofits in our region, and we have 31 chapters. So,
wow.
We're super proud of that. We see so many different ways that our nonprofits benefit. We have the Ronald McDonald House. We'll do a toy drive every Christmas. Every member brings in a toy that represents their business for their weekly presentation, and they present on that toy. That is so much fun. You wouldn't believe some of the crazy things that we see come in for some amazing toys. We have Make-A-Wish, who does a 28.3-mile hike. We just got done doing a spring hike where we had 69 BNI members raise $250,000. So that was the biggest thing I think we've ever done as a region. American Cancer Society, Real Men Wear Pink. We have 16 men that participated last year, and it's become a thing where they all buy pink gorilla suits and get on motorcycles and drive through town. So that's a fun one. Leukemia and lymphoma, we have the Man and Woman of the Year. So that can be a good one, raising. We had one BNI member raise over $50,000 for that campaign. I personally participated this year as that, and that was a fun thing. But ways that we bless our BNI members, providing board members, that's become a huge thing. Helping on social media, sharing posts, liking posts, commenting on posts, volunteer hours, donating items to silent auctions. We had one donation of a week at the beach for a house that slept 18 that went for like $3,000. So silent auctions are great. Our trades guys will often donate their services to a facility like Ronald McDonald House or whatever. They might donate some plumbing, promoting events and selling tickets, just plain donations, connections in the room. It's not just who we have in our room, but who we have connections throughout our room, and specific acts for introductions to certain companies like hospitals, like what you said, like why wouldn't you want an introduction to somebody that could sponsor a huge event? So that's amazing. Regional charity events where we have an event to support a charity, and it's not just the members of their chapter, but the 875 members across the region. So we actually have all those things listed in a recruitment letter that we send out when we're interested in recruiting a charity, and it's been pretty effective. But just the success stories, I was in a BNI chapter meeting this morning where a charity, Christy Cox was representing Providence Home, a men's home, and she did her feature presentation, and she had one of the men that had transitioned from being an alcoholic to being 100% clean, and how that charity has benefited him. Crazy amazing. It definitely made me get my checkbook out. So just so many different things that charities can do to benefit, you know, to receive the benefit, but then also, what they can do to give as well. Super, super exciting on both sides.
Yeah, and I think one of the things that we have talked about, anybody I've talked to in a nonprofit, there is a psychology of giving. There are endorphins released. It feels good to give. And BNI tends to, because givers gain is our foundational core value, we attract people who are already in tune with that. And so it makes sense that we're pairing up all of these people who want to feel good by doing something good. And I think, Shannon, you mentioned that earlier, to say we want to help each other. And so maybe part of it, what you all are doing, is educating people on how to channel that desire to feel good by doing good. And you all are helping the businesses to do that. So that's
Well
a
said.
yeah. I mean, not well said, but yes, thank you.
That's awesome.
I wonder if you guys could speak to now, maybe how you are giving referrals, because I know there has to be a tension in any relationship of, even though we want to, givers gain, and we want that gain back, and it's good for the businesses to give to the nonprofit. But I know from having spoken with all of you already in the last few weeks, there are ways in which you are actually passing referrals to your businesses as well. So you're not just taking. What does that look like for you, JD, in your, and JD, fun fact, he and I were in the same chapter together. So yay. So how does that work with Plateau Partners?
Well, my job essentially is to network for a living for the organization. That's my job. So I'm talking to people all the time. And so having the active listening that BNI talks so much about in whoever I'm talking with, some of them are maybe not as appropriate moments. Initially meeting the president of Alaska Airlines may not be the best time to say, hey, I know somebody who can, do your taxes. But nevertheless, for me, the active listening part is so key. The second part is I communicate about what I'm doing with the other key directors, particularly our executive director in the organization, because we have a Portland side, we have more up here. So we're communicating quite a bit. And so I will get requests from the staff in the Portland area. Hey, is there someone in BNI that who does this or does that? And so I make sure I communicate who is in my chapter and what seats are filled to the larger staff so they know. And so what that does is that it just broadens out more of that active listening. And that's what we do. And so it's proven to be, for me, really beneficial in terms of my ability to refer back out. And so to me, that's the thing that I do the most. I consciously go into all of my meetings aware of, as much as I can, who I'm talking to, what they might need. And if we get into a conversation that's a little more informal, oftentimes that's where the key things come in. And then I just go through the thing. Hey, I know someone, somebody really good, if you need that.
Yeah, like all of us do.
Yep.
It's like you're one of us. Just because you're nonprofit doesn't mean it's anything different. That's
Absolutely.
How it works.
It
Yeah.
isn't.
The beauty of networking. Shannon, what kind of things are you able to do when you're giving referrals in your chapter?
Sure, absolutely. I think it's interesting in the nonprofit world because, at least for us, we have three categories of people that we work with, right? We've got our participants and the families that we serve, and they want to support businesses who support the Playhouse and believe in their kids. They want to support businesses that care about their children and their family members. And then we also have volunteers, which is a huge key of what we do. We are 99% volunteer run. So we rely heavily on volunteers and the network of volunteers that we work with. And they're also a connection for us that need support and that need connections to businesses for things that they're doing. And then we have our board of directors and their own networks. So we have 3 huge buckets that we can utilize to give referrals and to reach into to make connections in the community, which is huge. I think the other thing that's been unique for us is that because of COVID, a lot of companies couldn't do trade shows, and that's how they generate referrals outside of BNI. So we provided a place for them to talk about their business and hand out information. For some reason, everything was shut down except golf outings. So we hosted our first ever golf outing, and businesses could bring their information and sit at a table on a hole, have fun with our guests, and still be safe and promote their business in a unique way that isn't a trade show, but gives them the same benefit that a trade show would when they couldn't do it otherwise. So that's been a huge piece of it. And then our big one this year is that DEI initiative. It's a huge thing that people are discussing in the business world or the corporate world. And we're a huge part of that. DEI means diversity, equity, and inclusion, and it should include disabilities, but a lot of times it doesn't. Only 4% include disabilities in their DEI initiatives. And so we really want to work with businesses on making sure that they have that community represented in their company and the benefits of having somebody who is disabled working for their company, the morale boost that it gives, the loyalty that these employees will have. And so we generate referrals by giving connections to well-trained people with disabilities who can work for these companies and be an asset to their team. And I think that's been a huge impact that we're really excited about starting and continuing to grow.
Yeah, it's great as each of you is speaking, you're giving a different angle of it. So I'm guessing when we get to the Q&A in a few minutes here, it'll be somebody heard something that resonates and they want to get at it a little bit deeper. Bethany, what kind of things are you finding? I know your weekly presentations are heavy on education and what's going on and things. So tell us a little bit about how you're passing referrals.
Well, going third is very difficult because there's a lot, we do a lot of the same work. So I'm trying to come up with something different that you all do. But the important thing to think about for me is, there are different kinds of networkers, right? And being a connector is what I do, right? That's what I try to do, is connect people using our listening skills, paying attention to what one of my volunteers, one of my donors, one of my team leaders, one of my board members, what they're personally looking for, so that I can refer out, whether it's within that group. But living and paying attention to what our community wants, being myself participating on other boards, I can connect my BNI members as well. So just like everyone else in our BNI group, just the way you're always listening, reaching, I have to give back just as much as the rest of the group does. So I don't have anything exciting to share because you all have shared it.
It's all exciting. It's all exciting. I'm wondering if, Shirley, because you have a broader view of this, and then if any of the 3 of you want to chime into this as well, do you ever see opportunities for the people from the nonprofits to go into businesses to speak? Because I would think that would be good credibility for the business owners. So I'm wondering if there are any other kinds of outside connections where nonprofits are going to the businesses instead of vice versa, or something like that. Shirley, what kinds of things are you seeing that help businesses? Unmute first.
He's unmuted.
We all do it.
It's like I'm new at this or something. Going back to the referral piece, we have really been super excited to see some of our nonprofits using our folks. Lots of times they will call out for a referral, and then that business will even donate a portion or all of it. But for instance, Make-A-Wish, they want a playhouse, so they went to one of our businesses that do sheds, and all of the different BNI folks helped trim that play shed out. It was the most beautiful thing you'd ever seen. But Make-A-Wish, they often will do a golf cart. They might be able to use a travel agent to book, certain things. So they're giving back as well. And it's just opening up their mind to figure out how they can do that. One of the things that I want to do is provide the board members with card holders of all the different BNI members. So just your basic BNI card holder with maybe a different logo on it, where we give those out to the board members, because the board members can see how BNI is blessing, the charity that they sit on the board for, and they all have needs. They all need a HVAC person. They all need, realtors and all that. So that's something that we want to start doing, just another way to connect them. As far as speaking engagements, I don't think my mind has gone on that level yet. So I'm very excited that you brought that up, but truthfully, we have not done that. Yeah, we really haven't done that. We've had nonprofits like, come into BNI chapters and do the, feature presentation, obviously with some folks that might be even above, like they came in to recruit hikers and stuff, and did a phenomenal job doing that. But as far as going into businesses and speaking, that's new territory, and I love the idea of it.
All right, well, let's see if that takes off.
Yeah.
Bethany, you want to add
I
something?
thought of something that I didn't,
Yeah.
So while I'm always asking for sponsors, like sponsorship dollars, I'm trying to also provide opportunities for those sponsors to get in front of our customer, right?
Yeah.
So we had an event that 2 of my chapter members sponsored. It's a smaller, more intimate event, but I invited them to come and to attend and to interact with the customer base as well. So that was a value added opportunity for them. I don't know if they got any business out of it yet, but they were introduced to 50 other people that maybe they wouldn't have been introduced to. So just trying to find those opportunities to get my chapter members in front of our audience as well.
Yeah, it is what networking is about. So we're just exploring a new angle of something we've all been doing as long as we've been part of BNI. And I think that's what makes it such an intuitive process to just pull it out to the next level with nonprofits. Who knows where it can go from here. I want to spend just a couple of minutes. I'll come back to some of you. We're going to have Q&A in just a few minutes here. But I just wanted to run through some different ideas in conversations that we've been hearing from different chapters around, from directors, from coaches, from different people. This was something that was posted on a chat that we have with all of the managing directors for the BNI core regions. And this comes from Tennessee, where one chapter decided that they were going to sponsor a 5K. And you can see that lots of people are coming, and they could have different sponsors and different chapters if they wanted to have a booth there, and they raised $4,000 for the nonprofit in their chapter. So these people all work together to do something for the nonprofit, but it's good for their businesses too, because if those businesses were sponsors there, they got exposure. Like you just were mentioning, Bethany, you get in front of new people, let them know what you do, chat with people. It is what networking is all about. So it can be on a big scale or a small scale, but some of the ideas that we know we've already talked about that you can incorporate into your chapters are sponsoring or hosting events like that 5K, like a golf tournament, whatever creative thing that you want to do. Putting nonprofits and businesses together is a great way to benefit both of them. Also, we always know that nonprofits need donations, whether it's your time, treasures, or talents. These are ways that we can help the communities grow and meet the goals that they have for the people they serve. Also, we want volunteers for our nonprofits. And this is good way. On the podcast that I'm going to show you in just a second, Steve and I interviewed someone who works with fundraising for nonprofits, who is also from our chapter, my former chapter. And she talks about how good it looks when an entire company comes to volunteer in branded shirts for an auction or for an event to say, wow, this chiropractor really believes in this cause. I want to go to this chiropractor because look, they all have the logo, so we know where you're from. So that's a great way to help your business and help a nonprofit. And of course, to promote it, if you have a business newsletter, you can promote the causes of the nonprofits in your newsletter, in your emails, on your social media. These are huge ways to reach people, especially since we've all gone online so much more in the last couple of years. Social media is a great way to reach people, to let them know about the causes that you're promoting. And I think the very best idea of all, why not invite these people to a BNI chapter? Especially if your chapter is one of those that doesn't have a nonprofit in it. This is a great opportunity to say, I would love to help promote you with a group of 40 professionals that I meet with every week. Would you come and just tell us, and you'll get a chance for 30 seconds or 60 seconds to tell us what you do. We know there are big-hearted people in our chapter and they would love to be involved, and you could probably find some great connections and resources. Please come and meet some of our businesses. And in case you want to follow this up with a couple of great resources, there is an episode of Dr. Meisner's podcast, episode 511, which discusses the question, do nonprofits work in BNI? And I think obviously the answer is yes, but if you want to unpack that a little bit more and listen to the podcast, that is my recommendation for you at bnipodcast.com, episode 511. and never shying away from an opportunity for a shameless plug. You know, there's a little podcast, a little startup called Networking is No Joke. And Steve Tenuzzo and I, at the beginning of season 3, interviewed Gazala Uradnik, who does fundraising for nonprofits. And we talked about this very thing as well. So this conversation, we're just beginning to plumb the depths, and we want you to have all the ideas and resources possible to make it work well in your chapter. So the moment we've all been waiting for. Are there some questions for our panelists? Steve, this is when you get to shine because you're the master at seeing all of the questions.
I've been practicing my reading all week. Our first question comes from Derek Ramos. He says, hi, I started a nonprofit that assists the elderly who are low income. I support senior citizens with caregiving referrals, companionship, grant writing, etc. Is there a gap you personally notice for senior citizens regarding their quality of life, such as entertainment, purpose, their mental health? I'm doing a big survey to see what gaps I can help fill. Who would like to take that one?
Well, I can't speak to seniors, but well, kind of seniors and also those who are disabled. One of the biggest challenges that we face is transportation. If you want to go places, if you want to have a life outside of your home where you're stagnant at, getting places safely is a huge concern for the disabled community, and I imagine is also for the seniors. So figuring out transportation, safe ways to get around that's also affordable or free. Our programs are free, so we like the free word. That would be a huge asset, I think, for that community.
Great, excellent. All right, next question comes from Heidi. She says, I'm new to BNI as a nonprofit, and I want to know more about how I can give back to the businesses that support us.
Hopefully some of that has been answered, since that was a question that was about half an hour ago. So hopefully that
Absolutely.
answers.
Yeah, I don't know, surely you might have some, since it's more of a BNI question than a nonprofit question, some advice.
About giving back to the businesses that support them.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I'll talk a little bit about that. I mean, I think one of the things that you can do is to praise them publicly. So maybe that's on social media, and you want to get their permission first, because I have a few donors that want to remain anonymous because they don't want other charities hitting them. So you gotta ask their permission first. But I mean, let's face it, one of our core values is recognition. Why wouldn't we recognize huge givers? And so we do that a lot. Like even as a region, like I might make, like this past Monday, we had the animal charity. They had taken in a dog that somebody had hit and left him on the side of the road, and they needed a $2,000 leg surgery. And I made a post and said, hey, you know, if you could just give $5 or $10, let's help this dog. And within an hour, we had like $2,000. And it was just literally, I went on there, and every time a donation came through, I thanked that person. And it just, every time I thanked it, I think it went back up into the feed, and people saw it again. And as soon as I would thank somebody, another one would come through. And that was like an all-day process. So I think recognition is a huge thing. Why wouldn't we recognize people that are giving to us?
I think recognition, and then also making sure you're doing it properly. You have the correct logo, it's high resolution, that you're tagging the right group on whatever social media platform you are. So I think just being mindful of your recognition too, and that you're doing it in a way that the business can benefit and appreciate.
Yeah, to add to that, we add people as sponsors on our website as trusted partners. So we have their info in there and links to their contact information. We'll also, in certain cases, if somebody has really helped us out within the chapter, we give them an opportunity to come down to our building if they're in the area, and we take them all the way through. They can take photos, they can post their experience to their platforms. And I spend a lot of time asking that very question. You're helping us out a lot. How can I help you with this? And we get really creative about it. And oftentimes it's a collaborative conversation where we come up with something that member can use really well. So we do that a lot. We put their names on our t-shirts and all that kind of stuff too. That goes a long way.
It does.
Good.
Okay. What strategies do you recommend to follow up with businesses who don't initially engage with you?
Mm.
I'm wondering if that means businesses in the chapter or businesses in the community, I guess. But
Yeah.
I'll answer within the community. I mean, that's prospecting, right? You're prospecting and giving them information. If you've identified somebody that you want to get in, a business you want to get in, obviously reach out to your BNI chapter and see if somebody has a connection with them, and getting that warm introduction. But if they don't initially respond, that's okay. That might mean that that's just not in their pillar of philanthropy this moment. But if you continue on a semi-regular basis to provide information about your business or about your nonprofit and about your mission and about your cause, most people will be affected by what we do in some way, shape, or form. Of course, cancer, everybody is affected by cancer, but somebody's going to know somebody with disabilities. Somebody's going to know somebody that wants to adopt a dog. Somebody's going to know somebody who wants to send a child to STEM camp. Eventually they will have some way to resonate. So continue to provide that mission information and do what you say you're going to do. If you say, I'm going to follow up with you in 3 months, follow up with them in 3 months. Prove yourself as well as your organization to build that relationship. So, and maybe invite them to something that you're hosting, that you're having, so that they learn a little bit more about how it would be a benefit to their organization to attend or participate. So we're starting with Making Strides right now. It's our season. We're kicking it off, and we're having this big event and to kick off Making Strides. And a lot of times people are like, well, I don't know if this year's the right year for us to participate. Come to the event. It's no cost to you to come to our kickoff, learn about Making Strides, learn about the American Cancer Society, and maybe next year it'll be the right thing for you. So no is never no, it's always no, not right now. So continue that follow-up with them.
Well, that's great. All right, next, Avery doesn't have a question, but he does make a good point here, and it says, my Rotary is always looking for other nonprofit speakers. So if you're looking for some more exposure, maybe reach out to a Rotary Club to get some time up front in front of a really great group of people who work in service, right? Next question. Let's see. Are all nonprofits in BNI allowed to fundraise? Also, does the nonprofit seat change from year to year? I don't think so. It's a regular membership. So yes, let's start with that question. Can everyone do fundraising at the same time if there are multiple seats in a chapter, I guess is the question.
We have 2 nonprofits in our chapter, and we both fundraise. We both talk about our events and sponsorship opportunities for our separate events that we're running, because something will resonate with an organization or a business that may not resonate that we do. And there's different price points as well, and different promotional levels as well. So we run a national 5K where you can get promoted across the entire United States. But if your business is not national, then it's not going to benefit you as much as a regional or a local event would. So we do work with another nonprofit in our chapter. We do both promote events and sponsorships. But the reason that we actually are the ones that brought the other nonprofit on board, because they've become one of our power partners. Their whole nonprofit is based off of getting in-kind donations or donations of products and giving that to nonprofits that could use it for free.
Nice.
So the amount of in-kind donations that we receive from them is massive, and it's made a huge difference in our bills and what we have to spend money on, because we get those donations from our power partner, which is the other nonprofit. So we're happy for them to be successful, because the more successful they are, the more successful we are. So we love for them to be in our chapter, and we're lucky that we get to work together so well.
Great.
Fantastic.
That's great.
Excellent. All right. For those of you that are nonprofits, do you get together with other BNI nonprofits in the area to collaborate and do best practices and sharing ideas?
Yeah, I do. As part of my, I'm currently the president of my chapter, and so I go to a lot of the leadership events and have go to a lot of other various meetings in the area, and I always connect with the nonprofits there just to say, hey, let's have a conversation. I'd like to learn more about you, because I don't know what I don't know about what they do, as well as what they might be able to offer, what we might be able to help them. A fundamental principle that we have is that there's plenty for everyone if you just know where to look and how to ask for it. And so that I just spend a lot of time doing that. That's been really helpful. Certainly, it's not always as direct, an assistance point of finding someone who can directly help, but it sets up conversations and that friend raising, which is really our focus. Because then it's been interesting. I've had conversations like that lay fallow for 6 months, and 6 months later, that person comes out and says, hey, I thought of you, have this person, love you to talk to them, and something really fruitful comes out of it. So yeah, I actively do that on a regular basis as just a matter of course.
All right, excellent. That is going to do it for the questions in the questions section. Jenny, did you notice anything in the chat?
Just moments ago, this just in,
Oh.
Catalina wants to know, how can I choose an ideal nonprofit to my chapter and how can I invite them?
Hmm.
That seems like the same kind of question you'd ask, like what kinds of industries, what kind of businesses do we need in our chapter? Any of you who represent nonprofits, or surely you've seen lots of them in chapters, is there a way to kind of narrow down? Because we always say, be specific instead of saying all of them.
Absolutely. I think that this is one of those decisions for the chapter. I want chapter input as to who I'm going to invite for the nonprofit, because you want it to be something that they can get behind. So only one time have we had it just wasn't a good fit for that chapter, and they ended up going to a different chapter and they ended up being amazing. So you got to make sure that I think it's a discussion. So like, who do we want to get in our room? It might be, an education moment that you take and you talk about what we can do to love on a nonprofit and who do we want in our room. So that's something we made an initiative 3 years ago to talk about nonprofits during an educational moment, how we could love on them, and then just an open discussion of who we would like in our room. In our area, we have something called Midlands Gives, where once a year, all the nonprofits get together, and there's a day where a lot of companies will match dollars. Matching dollars has been amazing for our BNI charities, asking companies, to give a match during maybe a power hour of giving. But with this Midlands Gives things, that's what they do. And that's one of the ways we love on our nonprofits. But that's a way I recruit. I go to the Midlands Gives page and I'll look at all the different nonprofits and it has all their information. So I don't know if everybody has some type of initiative like that, but I can search and find a nonprofit that I think might fit a chapter's culture and see if it's a good fit. But I think it's an open discussion for the chapter to figure out who they want in their room.
That makes a lot of sense. There might be just not as many dog lovers as there needs to be.
I mean, seriously, that's a thing, right?
Apparently, yeah. Well, if we could do like in a 30-second round robin, and we're going to start with Bethany this time because it's hard to go third. We'll start with Bethany, then go to Shirley, then JD. And Shannon. I would love for you to say, as if you had 30 seconds in your chapter, what is a great referral for you right now, so that if anybody is out there, because I see lots of connecting here in the chat. So if you're able to save the chat, you can have some one-to-ones going forward. If you're not, maybe Steve, are you able to save the chat because on this webinar?
Yep.
Yeah, maybe we can get you connected with people. But what is a great referral for you in your organization right now, Bethany?
So right now, as we head into the Making Strides season, I'm still looking for partners who would like to sponsor our events. Like I mentioned earlier, 48% of people surveyed are more likely to use your product or support your organization if you are partnered with the American Cancer Society. So not only will you be providing a name brand recognition, but you'll also be able to provide your employees an opportunity for philanthropy and showing that you care about them as well. So sponsorship, whether it's presenting sponsorship all the way down to in kind, it's really what makes most sense for your business. So.
Okay, love it. Shirley, what can we do to help Midlands?
Yeah, I'm gonna just kind of change that up a little bit since it doesn't really pertain to me as the executive director. But one of the things that I think the nonprofit should really put some time into is we call it 3+1. It's the +1 is telling stories. One of the best things that our nonprofits can do is tell a story and really communicate their why. And when they do that, we share it on our BNI Closed Facebook group and our public group. And whenever somebody posts an amazing success story within, their charity, they start getting donations. So it might be that, just this past week, COVID had stopped Make-A-Wish from being able to grant wishes to Disney, and it just opened up, and they shared a little kid that had a Disney experience. And if you know anything about Make-A-Wish and Disney, they really treat these kids right. And that was shared, and bam, bam, they started getting donations right off the bat. So telling stories, if you have a story within your nonprofit, you should communicate it well and put your link there, and you'll be amazed at what that looks like.
Cool. All right, JD.
Going third is hard. I feel for you, Bethany. What I will say is really for us this week, it would be just an invitation. On September 24th, it's Girls in Aviation Day. And we do a big event. It's a national thing, but we do a big event. If you want to attend in person, you can. Otherwise, you can attend virtually. And we'll also be making an announcement then about one of our new expansions, where we're going. And so it's a really exciting time. So invite to that. But I will also say that my director's been on this call and has already connected with two organizations that we need. One who works with neurodivergent education, and then the other, the BNI Hilo Innovators. That's my hometown. So I'm excited to talk to you, Hilo. So we're really excited about that. So it's already paying off.
I love it. That's the best. Worth the price of admission. More. Shannon, bring us home.
Sure. I mean, I wish I had a great finale, but same thing. We have an upcoming gala for anybody that's local and wants to promote their business at an upcoming gala. We have a national event, which is our 5K, if you're a national organization that wants to promote your business across all 55 locations. But the biggest thing that I ask of you, and it's not even directly referral to us, it's just something to consider, and that is the hiring of a person with a disability in your business, because the benefit is truly incredible for them and also for your company. So if you need a support staff, or if you need any questions answered about what it's like to hire somebody with a disability, I am happy to answer any questions, but I just implore you to take that step and to create those opportunities for our friends.
Yes, yes. Varied responses, all necessary and all so givers gain of you. I love it. All right. Well, thank you, everybody. What kind of reminders do we need in the very last seconds of one of your webinars, Steve?
Yeah. Oh, that's right. It is mine. Hello, everybody. Remember me? Your host. Please join us next week. Everyone's got an invite on their calendar if you're in the core regions. But anyone who doesn't have it can always email me, steve@tenuzo.com. Next week, we've got Kathleen Del Pret, who is a master of LinkedIn, and she's going to give us a ton of really great tips. Please sign up while you can, because we're almost already full. This is going to be a hugely attended event. So don't miss that. And those of you who are part of our business book club, we're about to start talking about our book right now. We're actually a minute late.
Yeah.
So we're going to end right now. Give yourselves a CEU, and we'll see you all next week. And to our panel, thank you for attending today.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. We'll
Thank you so
continue
much.
the conversation.